What does your carnivore diet look like? Maybe when you first started and maybe now.
So mine, it's kind of interesting. I've gone through a recent transition here, but I started out, and this is the way I tell most people to start it: just eat what you enjoy. You know, make it a variety, because there's literally thousands and thousands of ways you can prepare meat and different types of meat that are available. You know, use spices if you need them. You know, dairy is kind of a plus minus. Some people do better without it. You know, some people use it to transition. I did that, and then for most of my time, you tend to really gravitate towards red meat, and particularly a little bit of fat, because you don't have carbs. You need some energy from somewhere. So a lot of people like to eat a lot of ribeyes, briskets, things that are convenient, that are common. So I do that mostly. I still include some eggs from time to time. I include a little bit of fish, some dairy occasionally. I've had a few times where I've had food that wasn't meat-based. Oh my gosh, hopefully no one's gonna hate me, but my kid had a birthday, had a piece of birthday cake. I'm like, I'm not doing it for ideologic reasons. I'm not a zealot about this. And so,
do you feel different when you have that?
I mean, it was kind of funny. I had one daughter had a birthday, and my son had a birthday. I had my son's birthday cake, and I felt awful. My daughter had a piece of cheesecake, and I felt fine. So I mean, it's like I said, I'm never going to tell people I'm only going to eat meat the rest of my life. I don't know. I mean, and I certainly am not going to take off the table that I'm going to have a piece of fruit here and there. I mean, it says, there are people that need to do that. I mean, I honestly have seen that, and they don't have either the physiologic reserve to eat other foods, and there are people that don't have the discipline to do that. Because a lot of this is, there's a lot of, I believe there's people that have problems with food addictions. I mean, I think it clearly is just like drug addiction and alcohol addiction.
They say a lot of vegans have issues with food.
Well, I mean, there's,
Well, because, they have, weird relationships where now restricting it kind of gives you something to process in your head,
Sure.
Maybe they say that about carnivore diet.
Yeah, and there are people, I mean, clearly there are people that become zealous and, ideologues and dogmatic, and I think that's not helpful. I think this is what I'm dogmatic about. I'm dogmatic about finding something that's going to make you healthy, and you can make a decision, I can say, I'm going to go down, I could walk down to that Italian restaurant and go have a piece of pizza, and I don't care. I mean, will it help my health? Maybe not. Maybe will it be any negative effect? Maybe not at all. And so I could do that and say, what's the net effect? And if I continue to do that over and over again, I get fat and tired and my joints hurt. I mean, the nice thing about being old, and going through the year beat up is, you've got some injuries and you've got some chronic, things that bother you. And pretty quickly your body will tell you, hey, that's the wrong thing. So I found, I was like, I'm gonna try to put some fruit back in the diet, and I ate a bunch of raspberries, and I just had a little more knee pain than I normally have, and I normally don't have any, and I was just like, that's curious, curious enough to say that I probably don't need to eat much of that, and it's just something that kind of keeps me in check, and like I said, it's there may be benefits. People are talking about from athletic performance, maybe you should carb load and see what happens, and I've done those experiments, and I know what happens. My guts don't feel very good. My performance is maybe marginally better, and I have joint pain. And I'm like, for an athlete over long haul, and I want to produce 6 months from now, having days where, my joints hurt and I don't feel like training is not conducive to good performance. And interestingly, I've got a lot of high-level athletes now that are trying this diet, and they talk to me about how to implement it, and we talk about, should you use carbohydrates? One of the ways you can do that. And we're getting some pretty good results, interestingly, and I think we'll find more and more people are adopting. Just like Rogan was saying, look, I feel great, nothing hurts, and that's a big benefit when you're an athlete. Even 30-year-olds, I mean, they're not that old, but a lot of them have gone through the ringer, and they can prolong their career, maybe periods of carnivory. I know my buddy Zach Bitter, who's my podcast host, and he's got the world record in the 100 miles. In both trail and track, and he does, whenever he's recovering from his races, he always goes carnivore now, and he says, I have no inflammation anymore. I mean, it's just like before he couldn't walk for 2 or 3 days after a 100-mile run, now it's like, I'm doing squats the next day.